Hello everyone, I am back with another semi-Valentine-ish themed card, but not totally Valentine. I'm using Stamping Bella's Uptown Girls Felicity and Blair Living Life. And there's little tiny kind of hearts here and there on that image, and I was like, ooh, this will work for Valentine's Day, why not? So I inked it up with my favorite things, black licorice hybrid ink, and then I'm just stamping it onto a scrap of CC Designs Copic Quality 110-pound cardstock. And I didn't worry about stamping the image perfectly, like the whole image, because I was going to die cut the top portion here using my favorite things, Pierced Circle Stacks Dynamics. I'm following a sketch for the Bellarific Friday Challenge, which I'm going to show in a bit. So stamped it, taped the die into place so that it doesn't shift through my die cutting machine, die cut it, and then I'm going to color it in with Copic markers. So I've said this several times before, and I think every single time it's when I'm coloring images like this, like these Uptown Girls. I've really worked hard on trying not to overthink my coloring when it comes to really detailed, small area type images like this with Copics, just because Copics on their own can be kind of a bit of work to learn how to use and color with and everything else, and I am no expert. I have taken like the beginner certification course with Copics, like the paper crafting one. I'd like to take the other ones, like there's the intermediate, there's the whimsical faces and hair, like they have all these like wonderful classes, but living out in the middle of this Canadian prairies, they're never near me. So I don't often, in fact, it's been years since I took that first class, but anyway, I just like to color. And with these ones, I've said before as well, I'm kind of OCD with just everything. But I find if I can just let that kind of go and I don't need to be perfect and I can go outside the lines and the coloring doesn't need to be perfectly blended, you know, I've said it a million times. People can do some beautiful things with not just Copic markers, any sort of coloring medium. It's a phenomenal, I just the blending people get in the coloring and all the detail, I'm wowed by it. But one, I don't think I'll ever achieve that, and two, I kind of just don't have the patience for it. So I just kind of slap color on and try somewhat to follow the, rules when it comes to shading and shadows and that sort of thing. Even then, I'm sure I break them all the time. But as long as I'm happy once the image is done, and usually I am, I might not be happy like during the process thinking like, oh, I went outside the lines here, I smeared it. That's another one of the beauties though of Copics is you can, use the colorless blender or other colors to push color deeper into the cardstock and kind of fix mistakes. Like there's a few spots here where I'd really gone outside the lines, like literally kind of smeared some color, but I can push it back in with other colors and kind of fix it and smudge it and you won't even be able to tell. And with detailed images like this, they're a little bit frightening sometimes to color and it just seems like a lot of work for a card, but I think in the end, I get asked a lot, how long does it take me to color images? I don't really time myself, I just do it. Sometimes it takes me a long time, sometimes I do it really quickly. This specific one, I looked up when I was done coloring and I think it took me about 15 minutes. I didn't spend a whole lot of time. I've obviously sped this up a lot for the sake of editing, because otherwise this video would just be way too long. But literally from start to finish, it took me only about 15 minutes. And that's because I just wasn't being super particularly careful, just getting the color on and kind of having fun with it. And that's what I encourage people to do. Whether you do Copics or watercolor or colored pencils, crayons, it doesn't matter. Just sit down and color. Just have fun with it. And more often than not, by the time you're done, you should be happy with it, or at least have, some practice under your belt. So once I was done coloring this image, I wanted to highlight the little polka dots on the girl's dress. So I'm just using my little Posca paint pen, which I haven't used in forever. And it was perfect because it has a fine little tip. So I could just add the little dots. And again, they don't need to be perfect to her dress, but it just kind of makes it stand out a little bit more. And then I just went along here and there and added kind of little highlights and a bit of detail, like along the cupcake icing and then the little champagne glasses and the wine bottle. It just makes everything kind of pop when you add that bit of white. So just a really light touch with this thing. This is like if you've ever used a paint pen, If you press down on the tip, you'll flood the color, so always use a light touch with this. And that's why I tested it out on the sticky note before I even went to do anything, so that I don't end up with like a blob of white ruining this whole image that I just spent the 15 minutes coloring. So added little dots and highlights, and then I'm going on to the card. And here I just have my phone, and I always just take a picture of the sketch or whatever challenge I might be working on, so I don't have to go back and forth to my computer. And especially now with Prego brain, I forget everything like 2 seconds after. Like, I can't remember anything. It either has to be written down or on my phone, so I can keep it in front of my face because I won't remember. So the sketch I had on my phone, and the pattern paper is from the new Doodlebug Love Bugs 6x6 pack, which I just showed in my last little haul video. So that's where this kind of makes it a little more Valentine-y card, even though this is more of a friendship card. Kind of a friendship card with a Valentine theme. I had to use these papers because they're so cute. And I chose more of the normal papers in the pack, like not the ones that kind of scream Valentine's Day. And just following the layout for the sketch. And then I had some red polka dot AmyR's ribbon in my stash, which went with the color on the pattern papers plus the kind of the polka dots on her dress. That kind of was what got me going to add this ribbon to the card. And then of course I get out my fabulous foam tape that's still going strong. I've got, I wouldn't say a lifetime supply after I got the new roll, but I've got a lot, and yet this roll is still holding on. So I've added some foam tape to this main image here just to pop it up a little bit. And then I had to add some embellishments. So I'm using the new Doodlebug sprinkle shapes in the hearts. Again, I showed this in my last little haul video that Caitlin was in. And thank you everyone for all your sweet comments on that. I know a lot of you got a kick out of Caitlin and her jabbering in the video and her perfect little bye at the end, which was absolutely adorable. I had my husband listen to it, and just the look on his face, it was so cute. He thought it was adorable too. So of course we think everything our children do is adorable. So anyway, my card base is a 5" by 10" piece of cardstock and scored it at 5 inches. So it's a 5" square card. And that's when I realized my first mistake is I did not cut my pattern paper the size I had meant to. I had meant to cut it to 4 3/4 inches square. And I didn't. I had cut it down to 4 3/4 by 5 inches. But everything was already layered on there and the ribbon, and I was not going to tear it all apart to make it, you know, perfectly matted. So I just went with it. So it kind of had a border on the top and the bottom instead of all the way around. But I went with it. If I hadn't have said anything, everyone would have thought that's what I meant to do. So yeah, sometimes I can pull things apart and fix them. Other times I just got to go with it because, yeah, I'm not going to like rip apart and waste a ton of cardstock to make it my original idea. So that was mistake number 1. The second one is coming. On the inside of the card, I just stamped the main image again with Memento's Angel Pink ink, kind of my go-to ink for stamping the little images on the inside of the card because it's light enough that you can write over it and it doesn't get in the way of like writing a message. And then I stamped the sentiment, which comes with this stamp, with my stamp positioner and the black licorice hybrid ink, and I messed it up. I had stamped it fine in the first place, but I didn't like that I didn't get the whole M, so I tried to re-stamp it and reposition it, and that's when I messed it up. I did that off camera. So I was not happy with that. And again, I wasn't about to pull apart the card because I messed up the inside. So I stamped the sentiment again onto some of the pattern paper, the same as I used on the front, but I didn't like how the letters on that specific pattern, it made it really hard to kind of read. It looks fine here on camera, but it didn't look right. So I did it again on the more gingham sort of pattern. I like that a lot more. So finally got that fixed. So I'm going to adhere that right over the messed up sentiment, and that just will finish off the inside of the card. And since I had a few more scraps left over from the pieces I cut for the outside, I was like, oh, I'll just add those to the inside just to kind of finish it off and tie it all together. So I just adhered the larger scrap, and then that little letter pattern, I just trimmed it down to just as much smaller piece and adhered that. And that finishes off the card. So as always, there will be a link below the video to my blog post with links to all the supplies used. So if you're interested in any of that, just check out the info box below the video. Thank you guys so much for watching and subscribing and thumbs upping my videos. And I will see you all hopefully very soon in the next one. Bye.